Throughout our time on this channel, we have seen so many different configurations at this point, and whether they lie in a hospital or in some weird pawn shop or merely at some kind of toy factory, it doesn't really matter. They all kind of do the same exact thing, and when we come across something new, it's always a little bit refreshing for the series. Well, lately, I've been reading more and more of the Hellraiser franchise, and I've kind of been in a lull of finding the next big topic. But I think what we can do today is we can actually check out the person who creates these boxes. Not Leviathan himself, but the Cenobite who would go on to take these plans and actually kind of make them for his own. To actually see a workshop, a laboratory if you will, that resides in the bowels of hell, guarded by the ancient black diamond god of Leviathan. And really, it's a story that isn't the craziest thing that we've ever seen, but it is a nice in-between, a small story that would kind of grant us a little bit more lore into the lives of these Cenobites. And today, we will be learning about a man named Orno. Somebody who is very cherished by Leviathan itself, and somebody who is very cocky, who would actually go on to create not only the Gate Guardians, who would go on to cherish and protect these boxes, but to actually create new boxes as well. And the way the creation is actually done in this is something that I haven't really ever seen before. It almost looks like this man is dissecting tofu, putting it all back together, and then sending it back topside. And what this story is called is The Maze of the Mind. And honestly, it's a lot more colorful than the rest. It's a little bit cartoonish, but overall, I do think it is fairly interesting, a little bit funny, and at the top of it all, just maybe a little bit stupid. But nonetheless, let's sit down and let's have ourselves a good time with this thing, and let's meet our friend Orno. Leviathan loves me, not for my flesh, but for my mind. I create new guardians and avenues into hell. My own private hell was not of flesh, it was of thought. And I had a mind that was constantly searching for a pure formula to the equation. The box became my mathematical gateway. It will give me the means to shed this fleshy form, because flesh is not important. It's something that you test the elasticity of. And throughout the story, while I wasn't really sure exactly what math has anything to do with the Hellraisers kind of creating these boxes or even making the gateways that would bring people to them, we would see Orno walking down into his own little private laboratory. A nice room with a very nice chair as he would begin to sit down and wait for his next request. And with the next couple of panels, we would actually see Leviathan itself come to him to actually speak to this man face to polygon, asking Orno to actually create something that would bring him fresh new souls. And with this, we actually learn that Leviathan can actually tire of things, can actually get bored of all these different torturous events, and that Orno is basically the only new hope. Even though these will bring down the same souls that have been brought down for eternity throughout the earth, Orno can create fresh and new ideas and bring us new roads down to hell. And for this part of the story, I found it a little bit fascinating that we'd actually see Leviathan speak, because this is something that's never really happened in the Hellraiser short story series. And with this, Orno could not be any more happier, and he decides that it is time to get to work. And with the next panel, we would see some fresh new Cenobites bringing in a plain man. A man with nothing but pants on, and a man who hasn't been besmirched by any kind of Cenobite activity. A clean and fresh mind, and a fresh material for Orno to do everything that he would need to do. The first step is simple. Leviathan supplies me with the raw material. This one has fallen from grace, and it seems that he no longer has any desire to bring his fleshy exterior to a focal point. But it's not their exterior that's important, it's what's inside. And suddenly, as this man is completely strapped in this chair, we would see these utterly terrifying hoses come out. These mechanical snakes that would actually go to enter his body, restrain him, and pull the materials that Orno would need to create the next box. To create the next Gate Guardian in a way that honestly kind of shocked me. Because when a Cenobite is created, they would take somebody directly from the earth, transform them, but with the Gate Guardians, instead of making them outright out of the person right there before them, Orno would go on to actually implant his own seed, and actually send it out into the earth. And when this sad soul actually goes on to create, his next child would essentially become the Gate Guardians that we've seen throughout the entire franchise. But with the next couple of panels, we would see Orno smiling ear to ear as he pulls out a knife and he begins to cut away at this man's head, opening his skull and bring himself face to face with this man's brain. The second step is to expose the mind, the opening of a new maze. The maze of the mind, it must be read. I feel his mortality, all his quirks, expectations, and so-called carnal desires. Not a complex mind, but enough to start with. And after this preliminary reading, the next step is most important. A taste. A simple taste of the maze. And then, on to the gateway. And while I'm not really sure what exactly tasting this man's brain juices would essentially do for the Cenobite, it seems to be extremely important. Whether it is to taste his memories or to taste his desire, it seems that it would actually be needed to create the box that would accompany this gate guardian. And with the next couple of panels, we would see Orno walking over to this giant rack, filled with all these different fleshy cubes, in a way that I've never really seen one of these Lamarckan cubes be created. And it makes me wonder whether or not Lamarckan created the original cube, or if this particular set of schematics was given to him maybe in a dream, or just in a simple desire. And even though I have now seen Hellraiser Bloodlines, I still don't really have an answer to this question. But as Orno plucks one of these fleshy boxes from this rack, he would go back over to his workstation, and he would begin to cut away into something that utterly looks like tofu, making all these different puzzle pieces that we eventually conjoin into madness, into desire, and into compulsion. Or rather, obsession. Each one must be shaped and formed. The pieces are cut, and each part reflects some strength or weakness. They grow together to bring life to a new gateway. And our friend's usefulness is not over yet. Just a few minor repairs, and a short journey to the surface of hell. And with these next couple scenes is something that I didn't really realize. When we see Orno walking up this staircase, bring his new subject up to the surface of whatever this place is, I assumed that it was Earth, and I assumed that this man was actually bringing him back to reproduce, to actually create the real thing that would eventually become the Gate Guardian. But now I'm slowly realizing that Orno is actually working beneath hell itself, in a world that I've never even heard of before, in a world that I have no idea what to even name it at this point. And if any of you viewers actually have an answer to this, I would be very much interested to hear that down in the comments, or in our shiny new Discord, link down in the description. But as Orno brings this man to the top of the staircase, he decides that he will give this man a gift. And what this would actually be is Orno implants his genes directly into this man, sending him back out to the earth for one intensive goal: the desire to reproduce. This desire will give us the guardian that we need, somebody who will love and protect the box. But we can't have your genes passed on. You're too weak, and my seed is strong. So my gift is desire, and you shall carry my seed back with you, back to Earth. And with this strange shot of Orno actually gifting this man his seed, something that could only be said in the Hellraiser universe, and something that still doesn't really quite sound right to me, we would see this poor man released back out into the planet, with a fresh new set of clothes, and another question arises in my mind: whether this brand new suit was actually given to him by Orno the Cenobite, or whether this man had enough brain capacity to actually go out and seek these clothes. Because at this point, this man is essentially brain dead. But with the next panel, we would actually see this man walking down the street, and we would see a young freelancer standing outside of a building, asking this man if he would like to show her a good time. And with the next panel, we would see our new main character with literal drool oozing out of his mouth. And at a first thought, you would think that this young freelancer would maybe think differently, that the fact that this man is literally not even responding, that the fact that this man is literally drooling, might mean that he might not quite be the best customer. And with the next panel, she would learn exactly this, as we'd see them naked in a bed, and this man would actually go sprinting out of the room as she's calling out to give her money. And with the next couple of scenes, we would see this man running directly out into the road and being struck down by a car, because at this point his purpose has been utterly fulfilled. Leviathan is pleased, and there is no more work for this man to do. And now that Orno's seed is passed down, we would actually come to the next panel, where we would see this young freelancer laying down in a hospital bed, giving birth until her untimely demise, and all the doctors around her don't see any reason why this would even possibly happen. Why she would literally just stop breathing and keel over dead as this baby is passed on. But one thing to be noted is that this child actually has the green eyes that Orno has. But with the doctors holding this newfound baby, this new child would find a brand new home. He's a beautiful child with such lovely green eyes. I don't think we're gonna have a problem finding somebody to adopt him. And with our next panel would take place 16 years later, as this young child is officially grown up, and he's actually been taken in by a new set of parents, and it would so happen to be his very own birthday. And as this young boy is getting ready for school, his adopted father would go outside and see a package on the ground. "Ian, there's a package here for you." "Wow, it must be a birthday present from Grandma." "But son, do you have any idea what this card's supposed to mean? Happy birthday from your fathers." And with this very evil message, we will look down at Ian staring at this package as he's opened it, and there is a revealing green light placed in front of him. And yet again, we would see another man beginning to drool. And it would seem that Butters has fell off my shelf. Let's just put him back here. real quick. But as we're looking at this young boy looking down at this irradiating green box, it would seem that his mind is gone completely blank. And I do have to say that the box that's actually revealed in this story is something that looks very cool, something that I personally would very much like to have right here, because it is a Le Mans configuration that I've never quite seen before. It's not just a simple palette change like we've seen in the hospital story, where instead of gold and black, it's ivory and red. It's completely different, and honestly, it looks very sci-fi. But with the next panel, we would see Orno once again. The avenues to hell are paved by my genes, and I always did like my eyes. It's a mark of a great mind. And this would seem to be a very simple ending for a very simple story. Not something that I thought was absolutely beautiful or something absolutely horrifying, but a nice in-between, and like I said in the beginning, a nice little piece of lore to actually see how some of these boxes are created. To actually see a new Cenobite that we've never really quite seen, but does kind of resemble the newfound Cenobite in Hellraiser 2, with the racks on the sides of his head and his skin being pulled side to side. Orno is definitely not one of the more scary Cenobites that we've seen in our time with the Hellraiser franchise. But to actually gain the knowledge that there's a little workshop underneath the earth, underneath hell, and its very own small pocket, and a place where Leviathan would actually come face to face with this man and actually talk to him. The only time I've really ever seen this is in the 2012 Hellraiser run by Boom Studios, something that I'm slowly beginning to get into. I've gained the first book, but each one is about $50, so I'm kind of taking my time on collecting those things. But for that simple fact, I found this story very interesting, and overall, I think Orno is kind of a cool idea. Like I said, it's a little bit cartoony, it's a little bit silly, but overall, it's a fun Hellraiser story, and one that I hope you guys all enjoyed. So, talk to me down in the comments. What do you think of this particular Cenobite? Which Cenobite is your favorite? And which puzzle box is your favorite? It doesn't have to be the cube. It can literally be any kind of configuration that you personally have come across, one in the real world or two in one of these awesome little comic books. But yes, everybody, thank you so much for watching, and if you're new here, please consider liking the video and maybe possibly subscribing. I cover all sorts of different stories on this channel, and Hellraiser is definitely one of the reoccurring ones, because here on From the Heart, we enjoy ourselves some Hellraiser. And if anybody hasn't heard yet, we've also started a nice little Discord where we've been having a few nice little discussions, talking about our own personal scary stories, talking about music, books, movies, talking in the voice chat once in a while, and it's been a pretty cool little experience actually getting to know a few of you a little more personally. But anyways, I'm beginning the ramble. Everybody, have yourself an absolutely fantastic night, and once again, thank you so much for watching this channel. And with that, I do say goodbye.